last two real assignments, we've already talked about file systems too, is we're going to deal with IPv6. Have you guys heard of IPv6?
Yes.
Maybe. So up until this point in the class, we've only, our IP addresses, our 32-bit IP addresses, like 144.38, something, something. That addressing scheme has been around for what, 30, 40 years now. And the gist of the matter is we're running out of IP addresses, or at least that's the claim. So, or IPv4 addresses, and in fact, a lot of them have been.
I thought we already ran out.
Well, they say ran out. You have to use that in a very loose term. I think the very top level entity that manages IP records, which is, I can't think of the name now. They've ran out of blocks that they can assign to regional providers. I think regional providers still probably have some. Anyway, internet's still working, it hasn't failed yet. But, I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, it might have even been 7 or 8 years ago now, they were gonna have an IPv6 cutover day, like July 6th, 2012, or I don't know, something like that. Didn't happen. But anyway, IPv6 is a different addressing scheme, wherein instead of using 32-bit addresses, we're using 128-bit addresses. So the address space is huge. And I know in your networking class, they talk about, you know, that's like something like 2 trillion addresses for every person, or some weird, insane number, right? So I think it would be useful to see if we can at least do a service that's running on IPv6. And it's actually fairly simple because all of your machines should already have IPv6 addresses assigned to them. To double check that, I'm going to go to one of my virtual machines. For some reason it's not storing my password. But if we do the IP space A command, there's my IPv4 address. And you should all already have an INET6 address on your machines by default. You haven't even done anything. And you're looking at the address that starts with 2001. The one below that, I think this is just kind of a, what do they call it? Local address. Whereas this is our global address. So you should all already have an address. All we have to do is make our Apache web server listen to that address and then test it. So, start with client, it's already easy. Okay, if you don't already have a GUI, Linux, or Windows, you don't actually have to do this part, but what we need to do, in the end of this assignment, we want a web server up that's running on IPv6, and we want to test that we can connect to our web server with an IPv6 client. I don't think your laptops are getting an IPv6 address. But all the machines out here have an IPv6 address. So to do testing, you may have to go sit at one of these computers out here, or do what I said in my screenshots. You can actually create a new VM.
My laptop was IPv6.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
With a 2001 address? In any case, I don't think we're allowing it through the firewall, so.
Okay. I've got INET6 2001 address. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it works, I don't know. Okay, so basically I went and I cloned a GUI machine, and then that's probably still around, that you could go clone my graphical user interface, the username and password, CIT user Bison Brooks, and I load it up, I log in, and I make sure that I have an IPv6 address. By default, you should automatically get one if you put it in your VLAN and whatever. But the other thing I will do is I'm going to switch this. This is a client machine. I'm going to make it use a IPv6 DNS server. You can set up IPv4 all you want, but we're concerned with IPv6. So this address is Google's IPv6 name server. So we'll just put that in there. And then I'm going to make sure, I'm going to use the ping6 command and make sure I'm pinging an IPv6 address. So I can ping Google's IPv6 name server. Can I ping by name? So if I do ping6 www.google.com, I was also able to do a successful DNS lookup over IPv6. To test it, to make sure that's actually working right, don't even configure any IPv4 stuff. Just do IPv6. Okay, ping by name. Okay, note that IPv4 will not work unless you configure it. So then the flip side is on the server, we need to configure it to listen on an IPv6 address. So I actually, and it is by default, right? I just showed you. All your machines should automatically have an IPv6 address. So you don't have to do anything, that was easy. But we do need to configure a virtual host with that same IPv6 address. So here is mine. I just catted it out for you. I called mine IPv6. Well, that was some other domain I have. Mojo Jojo. I put in the whole IPv6 address. And this is what most students mess up on. At the very end, you still have to put :80. That's the end of your IPv6 address, saying this is the port that we're listening on. And then I put in my server name, my document root, just like we've done before. And you enable that site. So sudo a2 insight, you restart Apache just like we've done before. You create your document root, you put your content in there, and now I'm going back to my name server. And on my name server, I'm adding a quad A record. This is a new record we haven't seen before, but it's very simple. We go into our zone file, and there we go. I added this record right here. So you just do IPv name of your host, in quad A, and then your IPv6 address. So it's an IPv4 DNS server that can answer or hand back IPv6 lookups. Increment serial number, restart. Can we visit the new website? So this is why I had a client on that network. And I went to IPv6, whatever, and yay. I wrote, and I don't know if I took a screenshot of it. Oh, this is the code that I wrote to test that. This is just some simple PHP code to verify that I really was, what the remote address was and what the server address was. So it was actually showing that I'm accessing it over IPv6 here. So you can see whatever. One of them is my host, that one's my host address, and then my server address is the other one. So yay, everything, well, I guess not everything is over IPv6. The initial, well, is it? Let's think here. Yeah, the DNS lookup, since I've only configured IPv6, it goes to Google's name servers, which in turn, they must know how to get on an IPv4 network and send them to my servers. And then my servers come back with a quad A record, and then I'm able to communicate with the host and do a lookup. So, or resolve this and get the website show. So was that super exciting? Here is my challenge for you, even though I didn't put it on the assignment. I would stick this in your it.cit.dixie.edu subdomain. Can you do that? Is that any different than putting it in your original domain?
I don't think so.
Oh, should be the same. So just to be comfortable with using these different subdomains, we've created them, but we don't really use them, or even stick it in the domain that was delegated to you by your partner for the DNS subdomain assignment.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Can you do a lot of that stuff like email servers and stuff like that with IPv6?
Yeah.
Because that would make your life a lot easier because you can just directly talk to each address. If you try to talk to a computer and you have the firewall open,
Oh,
you could just directly ping the computer. You wouldn't have to go through a translation.
right. Right. So that's the only service I've experimented with using IPv6. But certainly, yeah, I think. I don't know. I haven't tried it with XM. It should support it. We could also configure our DNS servers to have an IPv6 address. We can configure all our servers to just be on IPv6 network. But what's the problem with that? Yeah, you have to do some sort of translation for someone, for an IPv4 client, or else they're not gonna be able to connect. So, pretty much, why hasn't IPv6 taken over?